Everyone told you that getting older meant slowing down. What no one told you is that slowing down might be the most radical, most courageous thing you have ever done. Picture the early morning. Light comes through the window at an angle you have always loved but never had time to notice. A cup of tea sits warm in your hands. No one is calling your name. No deadline is breathing down your neck. No performance is required of you today. For most of your life, that kind of stillness would have made you anxious. You would have filled it with tasks, with noise, with the next thing to prove or accomplish. But something has shifted. Maybe it shifted quietly over years, or maybe it arrived suddenly, like a window opening in a room you had forgotten was sealed. Life after 70 is not a waiting room. It is not a gentle slope toward less. It is, if you are willing to see it honestly, the first time in your entire existence that you are free to simply be who you actually are, not who the job needed, not who the family expected, not who the culture approved, just you, unfinished, fully lived, and still becoming. Tonight, we explore 8 great shifts. Not tips, not tricks, shifts. The kind that rearrange how you see your own life. Because the most peaceful chapter does not begin when the world changes. It begins when you stop resisting what already is. Shift 1, from proving to being. Let me ask you something honestly. How many decades did you spend earning your right to exist? Think about that. Really sit with it for a moment, because most of us did not just work hard. We worked hard in a particular way, with a particular anxiety underneath it all, the quiet, persistent fear that if we stopped performing, stopped producing, stopped being useful, something essential about us would be taken away, that we would be found out as insufficient. You were capable. You showed up. You sacrificed things you did not want to sacrifice. You carried responsibilities that no one fully thanked you for. And underneath all of it, the engine running constantly was the belief that your worth had to be earned. Daily, renewably, without rest. That belief did not come from nowhere. It was handed to you early. By parents who were themselves exhausted and unexamined, by a culture that measures a human life in productivity, by the simple logic of survival which says, if you are useful, you are kept. But here is the truth that Buddhist teaching has held for 25 centuries, and that modern psychology is only now beginning to catch up with. The self you were defending, the identity built on performance and output and social approval, was never solid to begin with. It was constructed, layer by layer, like paint over a surface, and underneath all that paint, something else has been waiting. Research in gerontology has found something that should surprise us, but does not. Older adults who are doing best psychologically are not the ones who stayed busiest. They are the ones who shifted their sense of identity inward, who stopped defining themselves by what they produce and started inhabiting who they are. Purpose, in later life, tends to grow deeper and more stable when it comes from within, not from external performance. It becomes less fragile, less dependent on applause. A mountain does not advertise its height. It simply stands. You have been standing for 7 decades. You have earned the right to stop announcing it. There is a freedom on the other side of proving yourself that most people never reach, because they keep running, keep filling, keep achieving, right up until the body stops them. But if you choose it consciously now, you discover something extraordinary, that you are not emptied by rest, you are restored by it, that the silence does not reveal your inadequacy, it reveals something you had forgotten about yourself, something quieter and deeper and far more real than any title or accomplishment. The Buddha did not teach accumulation, he taught release. And the first thing worth releasing is the exhausting obligation to justify your own existence. I want to say something about this that often goes unsaid. The exhaustion of proving yourself is not a character flaw. It was adaptive. It got you here. In a world that genuinely did reward performance and punish rest, you learned the right lesson for the wrong season. But the season has changed. What served you then is costing you now. And the courage to put it down is not a giving up. It is an upgrade. Some of the quietest and most contented people I have read about in Buddhist literature and in the research on aging are people who describe a moment, sometimes gradual, sometimes sudden, when they stopped caring about the verdict, when they noticed that the committee they had been performing for inside their own heads was one they had assembled themselves, and they simply dismissed it, not with drama, with a kind of tired, clear-eyed relief. You get to do that, at any age, but at 70, you have earned the evidence. You have seen enough to know that the opinions of most people, including your own harshest inner critic, have very little to do with the actual quality of your remaining days. Here is a small practice for this week. Spend 1 hour doing something with no outcome attached, not for improvement, not for anyone else's benefit, not to say later that you did it, just because you chose it and it felt like yours. Paint something no one will see. Walk somewhere with no destination. Sit in the garden and watch how light moves. Feel what it is like to simply be present in your own life, without having to report on it. That feeling, quiet, slightly unfamiliar, slightly like relief, is who you actually are beneath the performance, and it has been there all along. Shift 2. From control to trust. You planned for things that never happened. You worried about storms before a single cloud appeared. You organized and prepared and anticipated and controlled, not because you enjoyed it, but because some part of you believed that if you held everything tightly enough, nothing would slip through. And things still slipped through. They always do. This is not a failure of control. This is the nature of life. The Buddha named it in the first teaching he ever gave. Existence is characterized by impermanence. Not occasionally, not sometimes, always. The river does not stop. The seasons do not ask permission. And life, with all its love and grief and unexpected turns, has never once consulted your preferences before arriving at your door. Control once felt like power. Now, if you are honest, it feels more like exhaustion. What gerontology tells us is something quietly remarkable. Older adults, as a group, tend to shift naturally toward acceptance as an emotional strategy. Not resignation, not defeat, acceptance. The research from places like the University of California and Zurich shows that older adults report less need to control their emotional states and more willingness to let things simply be what they are. And this shift, counterintuitively, is associated with greater well-being, not less. When we stop fighting reality, we conserve an enormous amount of energy that can go toward living. Ajahn Chah, one of the great Thai forest monks of the 20th century, taught this with characteristic simplicity. Do everything with a mind that lets go, he said. If you let go a little, you will have a little peace. If you let go a lot, you will have a lot of peace. If you let go completely, you will have complete peace. The letting go, he described, is not passivity, it is cooperation. It is the difference between a swimmer who fights every wave and a swimmer who reads the water and moves with it. The ocean does not become safer, you become wiser. Think of something small in your life right now that you are holding too tightly. Not a big thing. The big things can wait. Something small. Maybe you insist on how the groceries are arranged. Maybe you need to be the one who gives directions. Maybe you rehearse conversations before they happen, trying to control how someone else responds. Pick one of those. This week, let it go. Let someone else choose. Let something be imperfect. Let the outcome land wherever it lands. Notice what happens in your chest when you do. That slight loosening. That exhale. That is trust arriving. It is not naive. It is not blind. It is the deep, earned understanding that life has carried you this far, and it will carry you further, even when your hands are open. Shift 3. From noise to quiet. The world got louder while you were living your life. You probably noticed it gradually, news that never pauses. Opinions delivered at volume, always urgent, always requiring a response. Family tensions simmering in group messages. Strangers arguing in comment sections about things that will be forgotten in a week. And underneath all that noise, the deep, persistent hum of a culture that seems genuinely afraid of silence. Because silence asks questions. And not everyone is ready for the answers. Here is what the Buddhist tradition understood long before neuroscience could measure it. The mind, when overstimulated, cannot see clearly. It is like water being stirred constantly. You cannot see the bottom of the pond when the surface is in motion. Clarity comes when the stirring stops. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote that the present moment is the only moment available to us, and it is the door to all other moments. But we cannot enter that door when we are standing in a hallway of noise. We have to find our way to the threshold first. Peace does not arrive loudly. That sentence deserves its own moment. Pause here. Look at the room around you. Notice the space between sounds, the small quiet that lives underneath everything, the breath moving in and out without anyone reminding it to. The way stillness is always available, always present, waiting patiently for you to come back to it. This is not poetic. This is practical. Research on aging and well-being consistently shows that what we consume with our attention shapes our emotional state. When older adults deliberately reduce their exposure to distressing media without withdrawing from genuine connection, they report measurably higher life satisfaction. Less noise does not mean less life. It means more of the life that actually belongs to you. The mud settles. But only when you stop stirring the water. Here is your practice. Create one daily ritual of silence, 5 minutes, just 5. No phone, no commentary, no background noise. A cup of tea at the window before the house wakes up. 5 minutes on a bench before you go inside. 5 minutes of sitting with your own breath before sleep. In those 5 minutes, do not try to achieve anything. Do not meditate correctly or breathe perfectly. Just be present in a quiet room with the quiet version of yourself. The one who was always there, just hard to hear over the noise. You may find, after a few days, that you want more of it. That the quiet begins to feel less like absence and more like presence. The most spacious kind, the kind that has room in it for everything you actually care about. Shift 4. From expectation to appreciation. There are things you waited for that never came. The apology someone never gave you. The gratitude that should have been offered and was not. The recognition from a child or a colleague or a partner who moved through their own life without pausing to say what you needed them to say. The phone call on the birthday. The noticing of the effort. The simple acknowledgement that you were there and that it mattered. You waited. And when it did not come, something tightened in your chest. something that looked like disappointment but felt, if you stayed with it long enough, more like grief. This is the trap of expectation, and it is one of the most invisible traps in a human life. Because expectation looks like hope, it looks like love, it looks like you are still invested in the relationship, still open to connection. But underneath, expectation tightens. It calculates, it keeps score, and when reality does not match it, it delivers a pain that feels like betrayal, even when no betrayal was intended. The Buddha described this clearly. The suffering that comes from craving what others might give us, from clinging to what we believe we deserve, is real suffering, not imagined, not dramatic. Real, daily, chronic suffering that accumulates in the body and dims the light of ordinary life. And the antidote is not to stop caring, it is to shift where the caring lands. Appreciation moves in a different direction than expectation. Expectation waits at the locked door. Appreciation opens a window and notices what is already here. The way morning light changes color over 20 minutes. The fact that your hands still work, the smell of coffee, the sound of rain against glass, the particular quality of late afternoon in autumn. None of these things required anyone to change. None of them demanded anything of the people who have disappointed you. They were simply here, waiting to be noticed by someone who had finally stopped knocking on the locked door. Gerontology research on what is sometimes called the positivity effect in aging shows that older adults naturally begin to weight positive emotional experience more heavily than negative. The theory, developed by psychologist Laura Carstensen, suggests that as our sense of time becomes more finite, we tend to prioritize what is emotionally meaningful and genuinely nourishing. This is not denial, it is wisdom. The nervous system gradually learning to spend its attention where there is actual return. Buddhist teachers call this quality of balanced, open attention upekkha, often translated as equanimity. It does not mean you feel nothing. It means you are not at the mercy of every wave. You can receive love when it comes without clinging to it. You can feel the sting of neglect without being defined by it. You stand like a tree in changing weather, rooted enough to bend without breaking. Here is the practice. Tonight, before you sleep, name 3 things from your day that required no one else to change in order to be good. 3 things that were simply there for you. And let yourself actually feel the appreciation, not just list it. Let it land in the body. Let it settle somewhere real. That is not self-help. That is the beginning of freedom from an invisible prison you did not even know you were in. Shift 5. From grudges to lightness. There is a conversation you replay. You may not even realize how often you do it, but it comes back. In the shower, before sleep, in the middle of a quiet afternoon. The same words, the same moment, the same wrongness of it, arriving with the same weight every time. Someone hurt you, not accidentally, not without consequences, but genuinely, in a way that deserved better from them and did not get it. And you have carried what happened with you for a long time now, not because you chose to carry it deliberately, but because some part of the mind, the part that wants justice, the part that believes the record should be set straight, keeps returning to the site of the injury. This is not weakness. This is what minds do with pain that was never properly resolved. But here is what the Buddha said, and it is one of the sharpest truths in the entire tradition. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned, not them, you. Every replaying of that old story is a new dose of the original pain. The person who wronged you may be living their life without a second thought. Meanwhile, you are carrying stones uphill for them, decades of stones, an accumulating weight that costs you mornings that could have been peaceful, relationships that could have been present, a body that deserves to rest. The word forgiveness tends to frighten people, and I understand why. It sounds like you are being asked to say it was acceptable, to minimize what happened, to smile and pretend the injury never landed. That is not what this is. Forgiveness, in the Buddhist sense, is not a gift to the person who harmed you. It is the act of setting down the stones. Not for them, for your back, for your sleep, for the quality of your remaining mornings. The past cannot be undone. The replaying cannot undo it either. What happened, happened. And the choice now, the only choice that is actually yours, is whether to let that old story continue occupying valuable space in the present. Ajahn Chah put it simply, let the past be a teacher, not a chain. There is something worth naming here too, gently. Releasing a grudge does not mean returning to the situation that created it. You can set down the stone without walking back to the place where it was thrown at you. Wise distance and forgiveness can live in the same heart at the same time. This is not bitterness. This is clarity. And if forgiveness still feels impossible right now, start smaller. Start with the intention. The decision that this story will not have the final word in how you spend your energy. You do not have to feel the forgiveness fully to begin to withdraw the fuel from the grievance. You can simply stop feeding it, stop rehearsing it, stop giving it the best hours of your quiet mornings. The heart, like the body, heals in its own time and in its own way. But it cannot heal while it is still picking at the wound. Here is your practice. Choose one story, one grievance, one old conversation that you have been replaying, and decide this week that you will not tell it again. Not to your friend, not to yourself in the shower, not in the language of righteous anger that you have rehearsed so many times. Let one telling of it be the last. Not because it was not real, because you are more real than it is now, and you deserve the room. Shift 6. From fear of aging to ripening. Place your hand gently on your face. Feel what is there. The softness that replaced what used to be firm. The lines that were not there 20 years ago. The way the skin carries the record of every laugh, every squint against the sun, every night of worry and grief and joy. Society will tell you this is decline. Advertisements have built entire economies on the premise that what you see in the mirror needs to be corrected, reversed, minimized, that the marks of a lived life are a problem to be solved. I want to offer you a different story. Those lines are not evidence of loss. They are evidence of survival. They are the map of a life that went somewhere, that endured something, that loved enough to grieve, lived enough to scar, laughed enough to mark the corners of the eyes permanently with the evidence. The Buddha taught clearly, and without apology, that aging is one of the 4 inevitable truths of existence: birth, aging, sickness, death. Not curses, not punishments, natural law. The real suffering, he said, does not come from the fact of change. It comes from our resistance to it, from our clinging to the way things were, the way we looked, the speed at which we once moved through the world. But when we stop fighting what is inevitable, something unexpected happens. The fear does not just diminish, it transforms. It becomes something closer to wonder. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote beautifully about this. Birth and death are he said. Without one, there cannot be the other. Every ending is also the condition for something else. And when we practice what he called touching the ultimate dimension, we begin to see that what we call aging is also, at the same time, ripening. Consider a piece of fruit, a mango that has sat in the sun for weeks. Something has happened to it that no amount of refrigeration could have produced. It has concentrated. It has deepened. It has become, in the truest sense, more of what it was always trying to be. You are not decaying, you are concentrating. The patience you have now took decades to build. The perspective that lets you see through small dramas would not exist without the large ones. The capacity to be present with people who are suffering, without rushing to fix it, without being destroyed by it, that came from your own suffering, from having survived something that once seemed unsurvivable. Research from gerontology confirms what wisdom traditions have known for centuries. Older adults who shift their relationship to aging, who reframe it as development rather than decline, show measurably better outcomes, not just psychologically, but physically. Subjective age, how old you feel in your orientation toward life rather than your body, has a significant and documented relationship to actual health and longevity. The people who feel older in spirit, who have accepted the story that they are diminishing, actually do worse than those who maintain a sense of growth, curiosity, and continuing becoming. How you tell the story of your aging matters. It matters in ways the body can measure. So, here is your practice. This week, touch your face gently. Say, out loud if you can, or quietly in the mind if you cannot, "These lines are proof I lived," not resignation, not performance. Just honest acknowledgement of the truth that is written right there in the skin. And then look in the mirror at someone who is not declining, someone who is ripening. Shift 7. From busyness to depth. When did busyness become a virtue? Somewhere along the way, in the culture that shaped most of us, being busy became a mark of worth. To be busy was to be important, needed, alive in the right way. To have free time was almost suspicious. What do you do with yourself? People would ask, and the answer was expected to be impressive. And now you have space. The structure that organized your decades has loosened. The calendar that was once so full it overflowed has gaps in it. Some days whole gaps, empty stretches where before there would have been meetings or school pickups or work that did not end when the building closed. And the space can feel uncomfortable, not because it is bad, but because busyness was also, if we are honest, a kind of anesthesia. When you were always moving, you did not have to sit with certain questions, with the long silences between you and someone you loved, with the things you chose and the things those choices cost you, with the large and quiet facts of your own existence that kept patiently waiting for you to have time to face them. The space is asking you to go deeper, not wider. The Buddha spoke of the deepening that comes with stillness. Awareness, he taught, does not contract with age. It expands when given room to expand. The mind that has stopped rushing is the mind that begins to see things as they are, not as it fears or wishes them to be. Think of a rushing stream. You can hear it from far away. It crashes, it tumbles, it announces itself constantly. Now think of a deep river. It moves quietly. Its surface is still enough to reflect the sky. You might stand at its edge for a long time before you realize how vast it is, how far it reaches, how much is moving beneath what you can see. Busyness was the rushing stream. It had energy and motion. But depth, the kind of depth that comes only when the pace slows, has something the rushing stream never did. It has room. Room for reflection. Room for the long, unhurried conversations that actually change something. Room for sitting with a grandchild in silence and feeling that the silence itself is full. Room for the book you have meant to read for 30 years. Room for the question you have been deferring. Psychological research on older adults consistently finds that meaning, which is different from pleasure, which is different from distraction, is one of the strongest predictors of well-being in later life. Not stimulation, not activity for its own sake. Meaning. The sense that what you are doing, even if it is small and quiet and invisible to others, connects to something you genuinely care about. Depth creates meaning. Busyness often only creates the sensation of it. Here is the practice. Spend 10 minutes this week simply observing your breath, not fixing it, not improving your lung function, not trying to achieve a meditative state, just witnessing, in and out, the rhythm that has been with you since before you had words for it. Notice that it does not need you to manage it. Notice that it is doing something essential without your instruction. Notice, in that 10 minutes, how much is actually happening in a body that seems to be doing nothing. That is depth. That is where you are headed, and it is worth far more than the crowded calendar you left behind. Shift 8, from survival to harvest. You have outlasted things that should have broken you. I say that not to flatter you. I say it because it is true, and because it deserves to be said plainly, without ornamentation. The losses you have absorbed, the adjustments you have made to versions of life you did not plan for, the grief that had nowhere to go, so it went somewhere in the body, and you carried it, and kept going. The disappointments that turned out to be the making of you, though no one could have convinced you of that at the time. You are not here because life was easy. You are here because something in you, some quality of persistence that may not even feel like a quality from the inside, refused to stop. That is not fragility. That is refinement. The way metal is refined, through heat, through pressure, through processes that are uncomfortable by design. What comes out on the other side is not weaker. It is denser. It holds more. It endures more. Buddhist teaching uses the word prajna, wisdom, for the kind of understanding that can only be accumulated, not learned. You cannot read your way to it. You cannot be told it. It has to be lived into, over time, through the exact combination of joy and loss and endurance that makes up a human life. And after 70 years, you have more of it than you know. More than you give yourself credit for, in the ordinary modesty that most people your age have learned to wear as a kind of protective habit. Here is what harvest season means in a life. It is not about growing more. The growing season had its own timeline, its own demands. Harvest season is different. Harvest season is about discernment, about looking at what has actually grown and choosing, with the clarity that comes from experience and accumulated loss, what is worth keeping? What do you want the next years to be made of? Not socially, not historically, not what you are supposed to say. Personally, what conversations, what quality of morning, what kind of presence with the people who matter most, what small practices that are yours alone, that ask nothing of anyone else, that simply nourish you in the way that only you know how to be nourished. Research on purpose and meaning in older adults finds something striking. Older adults, when freed from the pressure of performance and external validation, often report a deepening and clarifying of purpose, not its absence. The sense of meaning does not disappear with retirement or role change. It often becomes more honest, more specific, Less about what the world needs, and more about what is genuinely true for the person who has arrived at this particular season. This is the harvest, the clarity that took decades to earn, the freedom to choose, finally, what actually matters, and to let the rest fall away without guilt. Stillness. Just for a moment. Before we move to the closing, stay here for a breath. Notice the room you are sitting in. Notice the particular quality of the air, whether it is warm or cool, whether there is sound or silence around you. Notice that you have been here, in this body, in some version of this awareness for your entire life. This specific quality of noticing, this thing looking out through your eyes, was present when you were 5, and again at 30, and again now. Peace does not arrive loudly. It does not announce itself or compete for your attention. It is revealed quietly in the spaces between the noise, in the moment when nothing is being demanded of you. That space is always here. It has always been here. The only thing that changed is that now, if you choose it, you have time to notice. A conscious beginning. From proving to being, from control to trust, from noise to quiet, from expectation to appreciation, from grudges to lightness, from fear of aging to ripening, from busyness to depth, from survival to harvest. Each one of these is not a destination, it is a direction, a turning of the attention towards something that was always available but not always visible. And like all genuine turnings, it happens not once but again and again, in the ordinary moments of an ordinary day. There is a tendency, when we talk about inner peace, to make it sound like something that happens once and then remains, as if one afternoon you will cross a line and afterward be untroubled. But that is not how it works, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. Peace is a practice, not a purchase, not a reward for having lived long enough or suffered sufficiently or finally understood the right teaching. It is something you return to, deliberately, repeatedly, with the patient consistency of someone who has finally understood that returning is not failure. Returning is the practice. Let me say something about that directly, because there will be mornings, after tonight, when you wake up and the old heaviness is back. The grudge you thought you released shows up again in the first 10 minutes. The worry about control returns in the body before the mind even names it. The voice that says you should be doing more, proving more, managing better, whispering again before the coffee is ready. That is not you failing. That is the mind doing what minds do, practicing old grooves because old grooves are grooves. The only question is what you do next, whether you follow the old path automatically, or whether, just this once, you notice the groove and choose to step out of it. One step, that is all a shift requires. One breath, one choice to set down what you have been carrying. It is small, it is quiet, it will not announce itself, but over days and weeks and months, those small choices accumulate into something that begins to look, from the outside, like a different person. From the inside, it feels like the return to someone you had almost forgotten, someone patient, someone lighter, someone who knows that they do not have to earn today. The Buddha did not promise that life after a certain point becomes painless. He offered something better. He offered a way of meeting whatever arrives, the joy and the grief, the health and the illness, the connection and the solitude, with a quality of awareness that is not destroyed by any of it. Not invulnerable, not numb, present, steady, rooted. Thich Nhat Hanh said that the most precious thing we can offer to another person is our true presence, but you cannot offer what you do not have, and presence the genuine kind, requires that you have done some version of what we have been doing tonight, that you have put down some of what you have been carrying, that you have stopped running long enough to discover who runs. After 70, life does not shrink, it simplifies. And simplification, when it is chosen rather than forced, is one of the most spacious experiences available to a human being. You are not nearing the end of something. You are nearing the beginning of the truest version of your own life. The version that does not need to prove anything, does not need to control everything, does not need to wait for someone else's recognition before it allows itself to be at peace. Picture yourself stepping out onto a porch in the early morning. The air is cool, the light is still deciding what color to be. No one is asking anything of you yet. You breathe in slowly, and for a moment, everything settles. The body settles. The mind settles. Something that has been braced for a very long time softens. That moment is available to you, not as a memory, not as a distant aspiration. Now, in the body you have, in the life that is actually happening in this exact breath. The most peaceful chapter does not begin when the world finally gets it right. It begins when you stop waiting for it to. When you release the grip, not all at once, not perfectly, but consistently, breath by breath, morning by morning, one small letting go at a time. And perhaps, if you listen carefully to the quiet that lives underneath everything, you will notice something. That chapter is not waiting for you somewhere in the future. It is already here. Release. Soften. Return.